Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome. Wonderful Sunday night. Give me a minute while I share this out. Hello, everyone. Bit of noise to it. All right. Let me just quickly hit the share button. If you guys want to do the same, I would appreciate it, as always. Thank you to the Periscopers, and thank you to the YouTubers hopping in here on the stream. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk a lot more about the society tonight, more than we're going to be sticking to like Constitution and stuff like that. So it'll still be a good night, jam-packed, filled with everything. Scott, welcome in. Cheryl. I got a new place to share things tonight, so I'm excited for that. Now, if YouTube decides it wants to work with me. Now, if you guys been following me on YouTube, you guys know that I've been having some issues there. Hopefully tonight we're getting through those, and it'll be, whoa, it's working out perfectly. Awesome. So, let me quickly share this out real quick, and we'll be right as rain. Getting big in. No vaping for Trump supporters. Yeah, man, no vaping for the Trump supporters. It's, can't do it. Can't do it. We'll get into that, of course. I think everyone knows exactly what we're talking about. If I'm bringing you the big news the first time that you're hearing about that, we'll jump through that. We'll get all up in that business and figuring out why exactly Trump supporters are not allowed to be vaping no mo. Can't be vaping no mo. This is a free country. Unless you're a Trump supporter, then you can't. So I hope you guys have been having a good weekend. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying your time. Stefan, welcome. There will be vaping for everyone, or else. Oh, there it is. All right, figured it out. All right, so let's get started. So we'll just get started with the vaping topic. All right, so down in Georgia, there was a man who wanted to go and buy his wife some vape juice. Buying the wife some vape juice, buying some, it really doesn't matter. But nonetheless, so the man goes in, he's got a Trump hat on, got a Trump shirt on, and that was enough to really trigger the clerk. The clerk, which was at Exhale City Vape in Tucker, Atlanta, Georgia, saw this guy. They were like, he was just like, hey man, I just want to get some stuff. The dude gets full on like, turn the dial up to 13, triggered over this dude, and is just like, you need to get out of the store, you're a racist, you're just going after this dude, and you saw the partisanship come out. You really did from the backlash on this, right? So I'm quick to jump to the assessment of the right, of course, like I always am, and that was that on the right they said, bake that cake. I don't care if he's a Trump supporter or not. Bake that cake. Sell him the stuff. Let him get out of the store. And while, that's a good business plan and we should all advocate for that, it's not up to the consumer. It's not up to the customer to tell you have to sell this to me, right? It's clearly that's not the right thing to do. You let the free market handle this. And so when it comes to somebody comes in that you don't agree with or you don't want to sell them to, I don't want to tell you have to sell it to them. And so that was one big issue. Now, while he was being triggered, right? So the Trump supporting guy with his camera, he was the one who recorded this incident, was standing there next to where the vape juice that he was wanting. While he was standing there, the clerk did take a swipe at him, did get him on the hand, get him on the arm a little bit, and so there was physical altercation there. 4 years tobacco free, that's awesome. So there was a little bit of physical altercation there. Now the customer had a little bit of leeway on this individual, right? And he utilized that in order to try to advance his side. So he said, look, if you don't want to give me this, if you want to just keep screaming at me, calling me a racist because of what I'm wearing, because of the apparel that I'm wearing, right? I will go ahead and go to your corporate and let them know, right? He should have gone to their corporate either way, right? If you're being denied just because of the apparel you're wearing, I think that's stupid enough, and the higher up should know exactly kind of the conduct that their lower end employees are setting for a standard. And he said, if you don't want to sell it to me, I will contact the cops for assault, right? And that's the right answer. So he didn't want to escalate it and get into a physical or advance the physical altercation there. He was willing to let it lie, and he just wanted to get the juice for his wife. He just wanted to get the juice for his wife. And so the clerk was willing at one point to grab the juice and to sell it to this guy, in which there was a couple more remarks being made. And I thought they were absolutely hilarious, because when he had actually been handed the juice and they were ready to process this transaction, he said, "Capitalism wins again." And, you know, like a lot of lefties who just absolutely abhor President Trump, that triggered him again, right? Don't talk about capitalism. Don't talk about capitalism. Don't talk about free enterprise. Don't talk about things of freedom and of having marketable value and everything else. And that took him took him back up to 13 real quick. So just merely mentioning that, it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful to see the way that went out. So, you know, So there was definitely wrong things on both sides, certainly, right? Certainly you should never assault somebody just because they want to buy a product from you. And certainly you should never force somebody to sell a product to you. So looking at that whole thing, right, obvious wrongs on both sides. And you know, I've seen a couple of you guys commenting and agreeing with that, right? The customer was wrong for trying to force him to sell him a product. You know, just taking it up to the higher corporate level, taking it to the building manager or whoever it is, would be the more just way, would be the more proper way of handling it. Because either A, they can say, yeah, we don't sell to Trump supporters, we don't like Trump supporters, or and really cough their nose to spite their face. Or they could say, you know what, our clerk was in the wrong. And after this, there was the statement made by the company that the clerk was let go. He was fired for being an absolute dolt. And they said basically, you know what, everybody's welcome. It doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. If you want to come in and you want to buy products from us, come in, buy our products, allow us to sustain ourselves in the market, allow us to continue. So I think the corporation, the company, did the right thing on this, right? You gotta get rid of the cancer that's within your company. It doesn't matter that he was a lefty, right? If it was a Trump supporter and saw somebody coming in with an Obama shirt or apparel, right? And they did the same thing, I would applaud them the same, because it's not about political affiliation when you're trying to survive in the free market. If you're going to be, if your business plan is to only one political affiliation or one political view, you're already shooting yourself in the foot. You're already going to make it more difficult for you to be able to be successful in the long run. So, great job on the company for getting rid of the cancer and for keep making it work. So quick and decisiveness, good job on them. Sucks to be the guy who hates capitalism, because capitalism just kicked him out the door, because there is no right to working for that company. So good job there. Now there was a transgender woman who was misgendered in Gamestop, and she absolutely lost it. So both of these, I think, actually came out on the same day. I think it was on the 29th or the 28th. It was absolutely explosive what this quote-unquote lady did. I'm just going to call her a lady just for simplicity's sake, right? I understand that trans women are not women. I understand the differences between the two. But just for simplicity's sake, we're going to just call her a woman just for the sake of simplicity. But so the woman comes up to the clerk, and she's not what you would call a passable trans woman, right? You would look at her and you would definitely be like, that's a dude. They still had the strong, chiseled jawline, manly features all over the place, did not have breasticles, if you will. So it definitely looked like a man with a wig, man with long hair. But was dressing feminine. So out of respect, out of simplicity, we'll just call her a woman. So she comes up and she accidentally gets called a sir. Now, I've worked in cashiering. I've worked as a tour guide. I've worked in, I've worked with many different people coming in and out of the businesses that I've worked for. And one thing that has happened, and is not because it's not out of disrespect at all, but it's purely out of accident, for most times for me, I'm not speaking to him, but I'm speaking from my own personal experiences, is that sometimes you get used to calling somebody a sir or calling somebody a ma'am, and when you run through a couple customers, right, you'll accidentally call a woman a sir, or a man or a male call him ma'am, and it's one of those slip of the tongues, and you can kind of be like, I apologize, and move on with life. What happened here was completely unacceptable for this woman, and she was quickly to be agitated / triggered. Wanted to also raise this up to the 10 or past the 10 mark, and move it up to the 12 and 13. And she is just absolutely astonished that somebody would call her a sir. And so she says, I don't want credit. I want you to get my money back. And so she got upset once she was called a sir. And so she is loudly proclaiming at a woman that was off the screen that called her a sir as well, saying, it's ma'am, it's ma'am, it's ma'am, it's ma'am, it's ma'am, it's ma'am. And eventually leads to where she is threatening the clerk behind the desk and saying, if you want to see a sir, come outside, I will show you a sir. And it really speaks to this idea that you can be whatever you want to identify as, right? Because you were inside the store and you're a woman, but then once you leave the store, now you're suddenly a man. Like, consistency. Can we just have some consistency? If you're a sir inside, you're a sir outside. If you're a ma'am inside, you're a ma'am outside. If you can be consistent with it, you'll have a lot less aggression being shown towards you, or a lot less resistance shown towards you, right? I'm 100%, I don't want to say apathetic, but I understand gender dysphoria. I understand it's not necessarily a choice of when people believe that they're not in the body that their brain says that they are. So there's, I can understand that, but if you can remain consistent, you're going to make yourself look better. If you don't go hysterical every time that somebody misgenders you and act as if you're somebody's pulling a gun on you or pulling a knife on you, or really just victimizing you in a serious way, you can absolutely 100% start reducing a lot of the hatred that's out there. But when you become bombastic like this in such a quick manner, you really are doing not everyone else a discredit, but yourself a discredit. And threatening violence to somebody, of course, right, something that I've talked about a lot, is never the answer. It's not the answer whenever somebody wants to buy vape juice and you smack their hand for recording it. And it's not the answer when you want to threaten somebody because they misgendered you and now you think that the next apocalypse is coming. So the woman, when storming out, she also did one of my favorite things that stupid people do, and that is kick down somebody else's property. I'm just going to kick your stuff because I'm angry at you. Ooh, I'm angry at this clerk, so I'm going to kick the company's property because that somehow, that clerk is going to be so distraught over the fact that his paycheck's not affected. He might have to pick things up. If there's damage to it, right, he just moves it off to the side and moves on with life. Like, you really aren't, the only thing that you're doing is showing that you're like a 10-year-old in a full-grown person's body. So, not only are you transgendered, but you're also trans-aged. And it really speaks to the idea that maybe, just maybe, you should probably get a hold of yourself a little bit better before you want to come out and really display yourself in this kind of a way. For some reason, she seemed like she had too much testosterone. That's well, she may be somebody that didn't transition early on in life, right? She may be somebody that naturally had a lot of testosterone, and certainly makes it a little more difficult for them to become a quote-unquote passable trans person. But at the same time, putting that into somebody for prepubescent and putting in puberty blockers, I think should be considered child abuse, because despite the fact that you could take them off of these puberty blockers and then puberty can resume, you still miss out on those gaps. And I think that having something that's irreversible in that way certainly is child abuse. So it is what it is, because I don't think children are able to grasp these concepts, right? Before the age of 25, you're really not a coherent, structured person at that time. So giving somebody any time before then, I think is questionable on the effectiveness. But of course, once you turn 18, you're considered an adult. You can do what you want to do. If you want to transition, then go right ahead. But doing it before then, it really is certainly a huge questionable area there. So, yeah, you can't even sign a contract until you're 18. But now we have the media really portraying this, what was it, 11-year-old boy that goes and dances and drag at an LGBT club, and they're like, oh, this is glorious, this is beautiful. It's like, that's a child. You are literally like borderline making this kid into like a stripper, if you will, or somebody that is dancing for his body before he even hits puberty. And then he has videos of him like acting like he's snorting lines of cocaine off of his arm. Like, it's just like, come on now. Can the media have any form of decency about itself? Of course not. Not in 2018. And as soon as we get into 2019, I'm sure it's not going to be any better. So it's just completely unbecoming of the media for portraying this out. Really, I think society as a whole is really moving down in the way of, look, if you want to identify it however you want to, whether you're 2 years old, you're 14 years old, whatever it is, right? You get to decide, because logic or lack thereof, it's not a good thing. But it is what it is. So we can talk about it, we can argue against it, but certainly you have people that are so stuck in the cultural Marxism way of life that the tolerance that must be portrayed is much more important than actually caring about the youth and caring about the people that are being. And of course, guys, if you do want to call in tonight, I do have the phone lines open. The phone line is 802-671-5328. Feel free to call in. You can add in information if you want. You can challenge the views. You can even just call in and just have a little conversation about things if you would like. The phone line is there, and it's open and available for you. Just make sure you're not calling from the private number. I do not accept private phone because I am my own screening process, so I'll probably save your number down. And that way, when you call in, I can see who's the repeat callers and who's the first time caller. So make sure you guys are calling in tonight if you guys got something you guys want to add into the discussion. Oh, I am a horrible, horrible person because if you guys remember from the Friday night show, I opened up with a little bit of a diary entry. So it was the first 7 days of the government shutdown on Friday, and so we went through a wonderful woman named Elizabeth. She's an author, and she's been writing a diary for every day that the government's been shut down. So I have the next two entries, day 8 and day 9. So I want to read these to you guys. I hope you guys are going to find some comedic value in these because I think they're absolutely hysterical. I've had to read them a couple times to make sure I wasn't going to laugh too hard giving them to you guys, but here they go. So, government shutdown, day 8. I ride the horse I commandeered along the Appalachian Trail through the Pocono region. I've named her Sarah Jessica. My battery-operated shortwave radio has informed me that the Russian and Chinese militaries have begun invading and they are currently stationed along the west coast. Infrastructure is a distant memory, as the only remnants of a once civil society still standing are dollar stores, McDonald's restaurants, and billboards for J.G. Wentworth and mesothelioma attorneys. I attempt to bargain with the store clerk for provisions with Federal Reserve notes, but he laughs me off and proclaims they weren't worth anything prior to the government shutdown. Sarah Jessica and I trudge on, defeated, hungry, and hopeless. Day 9. I rest my faithful horse and set up camp for the evening out in a wooded area adjacent to once was a freeway. It is now crumbled and collapsed within itself. I awake to find my horse missing. I follow her footprints to a local Wendy's, where she has been harvested for hamburger meat. Thanks to the lack of the USDA, there are no food laws, and I refuse the offer of a tainted horse burger and trudge along the side of a decaying interstate, toting my backpack and spear. I come upon a local airport, an attempt to procure a flight out of the U.S. Since there is no TSA, I have to fondle myself for weapons. I pay particular attention to my breasts in an effort to portray a true security agent. I find a bottle of suspicious, steaming liquid in my backpack, so I toss it in the trash next to me. What a good citizen she is. I get to the gate, but since there's no FAA, Planes are literally careening towards the ground below, exploding on impact. So much for that idea. Back to hoofing it northwards. Thoughts and prayers are appreciated. So as this government shutdown continues on, right, there's obvious, just huge issues here, right? Without the TSA coming in and fondling people, people are having to fondle themselves. And for the guys, it may not be that much of an issue, but some of the girls just think it's just a little bit unladylike to be doing that in public. But for the guys, we'll do it anywhere, we'll do it anytime, and so just doing it with yourself, maybe you got to sit on your hand for a little bit, give yourself a stranger, but it's okay nonetheless. So it's the government shutdown. I'm going to be devastated. Honestly, I'm going to be devastated when the government comes back up and we are no longer able to have these diaries being dropped on us. Right? I've reached out to her and I'm going to ask her and try to see if she's just going to continue this on. I would love to see day 365 of the theoretical government shutdown. If not, I'm sure the government will shut down once again, right? The trend has been analyzed and we will have more government shutdowns, and I look forward to it then as well. If you guys want to find her, you guys send me a DM. I will get you in contact with her so you can follow her. She posts these on Facebook. So if you're down with the Mark Zuckerberg and his crew and his clique, if you will, and you guys want to have somebody that's entertaining, genuinely entertaining and pretty funny, let me know and I'll try to give you guys the hookup. Every time a shutdown comes, I touch myself. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So, with regards to the shutdown, here's something that a lot of people have missed out on, was that the Democrats were actually in support of the wall. Weird, right? So there was 4 Democratic co-sponsors on a bill that prior to the shutdown even commencing, they actually came out and they pushed for a bill to be set up. But of course, this is not what the Republicans wanted. This is not what the Trump supporters wanted. So the bill would be requiring Mexico to pay for the wall. So it would block the U.S. from being able to fund the wall, but it would force Mexico to pay for the wall. So this would be in the strict adherence to the Trump promises on the campaign trail, where he said, look, Mexico's going to pay for the wall. And so they pushed this out there, and a lot of people miss this. Seeing that, I think that's a big jab that's going towards President Trump for his words over this, right? Because originally it was Mexico's going to pay for the wall. Now we're going to be reimbursed through tax savings. And even before, there was even discussions about USMCA, right? And that bill being able to, through the trade and through the growth, we'll be able to collect more revenue from that and be able to allocate that towards the funding of the wall. So, Democrats come out here and they actually try to push up this bill, and not many people are talking about it. So I want to at least bring that up to your guys' attention, that even the Democrats are coming out and some of them are in support of the wall, but I don't think this one's going to pass either. Any attempt, it's just going down. You answer questions, so lecturing, not responding. I do answer questions. I do answer questions when I come back and I check it in. You can always call in as well. Am I a Trump supporter? No, I am not a Trump supporter, and I'm not anti-Trump either. I am just an objectivist. I sit here and I listen to things that are going on, and I give you guys my opinions on things as well as give you guys the facts as much as I can. So, the ACLU. This is coming from Christmas Day from the Associated Press, from AP News. The ACLU is suing the government to learn more about the NSA call records program. So if you guys remember, right, Edward Snowden coming out, leaking out the information about the NSA and saying, look, they're taking your information, they're keeping all of your, they're surveilling the general population to be able to get these things against you. And that's how he became exiled, now lives in Russia, seeking asylum really in Russia. And so the ACLU is now suing. And the whole reason why I wanted to bring this up is because this lawsuit is necessary. So this is reading from the article. The lawsuit is necessary because the public lacks adequate information about the government's about how the government collects vast numbers of Americans' communications records, financial records, and other data without a warrant, right? So a clear violation of the Fourth Amendment where, without oath or affirmation, you have the right to your property papers and effects without a warrant, right? If you have a warrant, it has to be with oath or affirmation and the scope and everything else. So these are all in clear violations of the Fourth. It said that the law was meant to curtail unnecessary surveillance, but data collection continues to occur in the immense scale. For instance, this is the big part. The lawsuit noted the government said it collected over 534 million call detail records in 2017, even though it reported having only 40 surveillance targets. So 40 targets and 534 million calls. That's a lot of calls in 2017 from 14 different people. So we got a caller calling in. Hello. Is this Mr. Free Spirit?
This would be Miss Free Spirit, actually. But
I'm sorry. How are you?
Good. I'm doing fabulous. I was listening to you were talking about the wall and the government shutdown and whatnot. And one of the things that I think probably one of the biggest pieces that most people are forgetting, though I do believe that we need border security. Now, I live less than 8 hours from the Canadian border.
Okay.
And I'm very close to the boundary waters, actually. And what a lot of people are not understanding, what they're not realizing, everybody has their eyes on the southern border, and nobody ever. And I watch a wide range of channels, not just yours, but I watch a wide range of channels. Nobody except one, who is a Canadian-based channel, ever talks about all the illegals that are crossing over, not just into Canada, but those that are coming across from Canada. And so this is actually a twofold situation. If we're truly worried about the borders, then we need to really be looking and worried about just how porous and how open the northern border is and how much bigger of a problem the northern border is rather than the southern border. Yes, there is a severe problem with the southern border, but the northern border, because of all of the wilderness areas, the national parks, all of those things that are all open and all that private property along that area, if people think for 1 minute that that area is strictly policed and people are not of many different ethnicities are not streaming across the border freely, if they think for a minute that that Canadian border is not being infiltrated, they need to wake up to a different scent of coffee. This is not a left-right situation. This is not Republican. This is not Democrat. This is reality here.
Yeah, it's a concern for the sovereignty of the nation. Yeah.
You know, though I got a lot of laugh, and it took me a little bit to get out of the stop laughing of that diary, because yeah, it was kind of funny, but in all seriousness, there's a lot of truth within that, and that's the sad part of this, because we're having to, as a taxpayer, we're having to put up with and bear the brunt thereof all these problems. And people are not understanding that do anything that is put up on a border, if it's meant to keep people out, it also can keep you in.
Yes, and that's been a big issue.
People are not paying attention to. southern region, down on the Mexico border, how few agents there actually are for that entire stretch. There is under 500 people that are trying to do the job of what would take 2,500 people, and they're being paid less than $25 an hour to do this. So this is, and then so when they go home at the end of the day, and they feel sad, or like in some of these detention centers, and there is a need for some of the really bad actors of the bunch, because they caught several of them out there.
Yep.
You know, there is a need for some of these detainees and redirect them right back across the border, and make no bones about it. You come across, you get redirected right straight back. There is no hold for 24, 48 hours. You just simply redirect right straight back. So I don't understand why this is such a serious problem. And then right around, or just a day or so after Christmas, we find out that yet another child, it has passed on in these camps. Well, how do you stop that? At the border, you turn them around and you redirect them right back in to Mexico.
Yeah,
you do not allow them. It's very simple. If they really want to put military or National Guard on the border, like they've been talking about, if they really want to do something because of the posse comitatus, and for your listeners out there, do your research, do your own research. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to the host there. Do your own research about posse comitatus, and that the presence of armed U.S. military is legit, and it is within the Constitution because it does protect the sovereignty of the United States border. It is completely legit for them to do so.
Yep.
So my common thought is that if people were to step up, and this isn't just the citizens, because there's also a couple of civilian groups down there.
Yep.
And this is those, actually, even though some of them are doing a public service and cleaning up the desert, problem is if you get a bunch of volatile people, then how can those that are better trained to deal with those individuals, how can they adequately do their job if you have a bunch of civilian groups on the border? That makes it incredibly difficult for them to actually do their job. Now, I'm not saying that for everybody, for all the groups out there that are armed, because they have to remember that if you are within that 100-mile range of a border, then constitutional law comes into play.
Yep.
And international law. And what is to say, if one of those civilian groups fires a shot and it injures an innocent, or, God forbid, it would be a Mexican officer or something of that nature, then you're talking an international incident there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you bringing up all these really important parts that people really do need to look into a little bit. And When you spoke about a couple things, I wanted to bring those up as well. And one of the things that you said was you were talking about the second child that was killed, or that died while in detainment. And certainly we see from the media, we see where we're seeing people not being objective, not looking at the fact. I've seen certainly a lot of lefties try to blame the ICE and trying to blame them for it, and I think that that's certainly the wrong thing, because hers was flu-like symptoms, was it not?
That's correct. The first child was flu-like symptoms. Now that the young boy that died is more consistent with that of dehydration.
Yeah, so the first boy was dehydration, so that obviously was not at the hands of ICE or Border Patrol or anyone else. And then we have the second one that was flu-like symptoms. And again, that's not indicative of maltreatment or improper handling of the children. And so I think that certainly we need to have everyone slow down a little bit and be a little more objective. And I'm thankful for you. And I apologize for, of course, misgendering you in the beginning. I think it's funny that's right. What we were talking about. But certainly, slowing down and looking at the facts of it is certainly going to be more beneficial for us in the long run. So I appreciate you for calling in tonight and for spreading your wisdom and your wealth of knowledge again for us. So thank you, and I hope you have a great night, and thank you again for calling in.
All right, thanks a lot. Have a great one.
You as well. Yeah, there's a lot of great information in there that you guys really got to look into, and certainly it's the borders are certainly a big topic that a lot of people like to talk about and like to cover, and certainly there is the idea that we have to have a border wall, and there is the idea that we are not protecting our sovereignty enough. And like what I've been saying this entire time is, if you're for the wall or against the wall, it doesn't really matter in the long run, because even if you're for the wall, if we don't have strong legislation supporting the wall or supporting the immigration laws, which we really don't have, we're not really at in a place where we can uphold these laws. We can uphold that stuff. So, and so certainly it's the laws that are more important than a physical barrier, because a physical barrier is easy to take down, right? We just saw back in, what was that? 93 when Germany had their wall torn down? It was like ridiculously, what's the word I'm looking for? It was near this time. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Miss Free Spirit Press, for coming in and spreading that news for us. Thank you so much for that. Yes, that would be the Mrs. Beard coming in and dropping comments from my thing on Periscope. So thank you, babe, for coming in and dropping your own little bit of mini truth. We do have the baby truth in the growth on the inside, little baby growing in the oven, little buns in there. So I'm sure it's the little mini beard is one to spread their joy and wealth of wisdom as well. So yes, I am completely with you on that one, Ryan. When it comes to merit-based immigration, right, the immigration policies, right, we have 44 million people waiting in line right now to come into this country. How do we determine who gets to come in, who doesn't get to come in? And it should be based on merit. It shouldn't be based on family ties. It shouldn't be based on just the desire to come here. Certainly, asylum seeking is one thing, and keep that portion up there, but for people that want to actually immigrate here to the country and want to assimilate, certainly the merit is more important than anything. Thank you. You didn't check her on her Canadian border comparison. So there is actually a lot of immigration that does come across the northern border. There is a bit of issues there. Lately, I've been watching a lot of documentaries actually on the northern border and seeing what's been going on across there. So there are some issues. Is it nearly as bad as the southern border? No, it's not. But that was also something that she had shared with us as well. So it's there is issues there. There is a lack of sovereignty there, as well as in Canada with the open sovereignty, if you will. They're pretty lax on a lot of things. They accept people from the Middle East without very much question, because they don't want to infringe, don't want to offend people too much. So they definitely are more tolerant up there than even what America has for our immigration system. So I'm not sure what else you wanted me to push back on for that one, but it is what it is. When was the last time a Canadian national committed a crime? If it involves with them illegally immigrating into the country, I would say every time. I don't really know what you're asking for. It's also is not just the fact that Canadians are coming across the border, right? So it's people that are coming from all parts of the world. They come up to Canada and they actually come shifting down, because even the greatness of the Canadian healthcare, free healthcare that's up there and everything else that they provide, sometimes that's still not good enough. Sometimes you want a little more free enterprise in your life, and you want to come down to America, whether it's for to provide yourself and your family with a better way of life, or if you have bad intentions with it. It doesn't matter. People want to come here regardless, and certainly there's ways that we can discourage it. And got another caller calling in. Hello, how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Who is this?
My name is Tessie.
Hey, how's it going tonight?
Hey, I'm good. I was just listening in, and I don't want to take a whole lot of time, but one thing I wanted to point out, like, on the southern border, because I live in Texas, we also have a lot of big fighters in Texas that if things all went to crap, it would be taken care of by the southern militia. I really believe so. But on the northern side, we have to look what happened in Canada, in that they signed that mass immigration bill, where you can't even say anything about if you like, having people like ISIS will come over or not. You just can't say anything.
Yeah.
So if you do have people come over and then they infiltrate through the northern border, that becomes a problem.
Yes.
But I really do think we still need to look at our southern border, because there's diseases coming over that we haven't even, like, I've had the shot, but a lot of our younger people, like my nephews, they haven't had the shot.
Yeah.
The diseases that are coming over.
The diseases are certainly something that a lot of people haven't been spending enough time to worry about. And certainly when you look at a lot of the Central American or even some of the South American countries, they don't have the same medical practices that we do. And so they have people that are coming into this country that do bring some illnesses. Is it largely prevalent? I wouldn't say so, but certainly it's still an issue nonetheless for the Americans along. I'm thankful that you're bringing that up, because it is an important part of this.
Right. I just think that if a lot of people that are against the border wall and are against border patrol are not really putting their country first. And by putting your country first, it's loving yourself. Before you can love anybody else, you have to love yourself. So, that. And then another thing that I really didn't like was this gender dysphoria. And I know a lot about it too.
Yeah.
Partly because I study it. But I have a feeling that, they want to dispopulate, get rid of the population. Well, what other way but to tell people, confuse children about their gender, and you won't have any more kids.
Yes, that is obviously a huge issue. And I think the ownership really comes to that is for the parents to say, look, you know what, other people can make these decisions, but I'm not going to let you make these changes until you're an adult. And then, the parent having responsibility and accountability for their children would certainly be able to combat against this. And then when you have large swaths, here's one of the positive effects from this, and that is that all the people that are getting into this for just purely the cultural Marxism, that's their last of their generation. So they have to try to indoctrinate, and as long as the logical parents, the responsible parents, are able to provide pushback and teach their children properly, we will have that pushback, and hopefully we'll be able to progress past this.
Right, and just one more thing, I just think that we should push against the PC culture, because I think that's the death of America.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And if we don't push back, then we're just gonna roll over and die. And it's our time to rise up and fight back.
Yeah.
But anyways, hey, I'm a Trump supporter, and I'm vaping, and I'm making my own clothes and making my shoes. and they can just suck it. So, have a good day.
Thank you for calling in. It was great talk. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Have a great
Bye.
night. Awesome. So, yeah, I mean, those are all very good points that were being made. And certainly, right, it's not that we have to hate people who have gender dysphoria, that have actual gender dysphoria, or people that are faking it, right? It's not about hating them at all. It's all about what is the way that a society, what is the way that a species can survive? Because we are all animals, right? We are all animals. There are plenty of animals out there that maybe don't show signs of gender dysphoria, but they are even more, have a higher tendency of homosexuality than even what humans. But it's about finding out ways of ensuring that not only your species survives or that the human race survives, but it's also about, hey, look, whether you think that homosexuality or gender dysphoria is a mental condition, a mental disorder, or if you think that you don't have a choice on it, either way, you can say, look, you can be what you want to be. If you really are that, you are that. Once you're an adult, you can go ahead and practice that and instilling upon them and showing them, hey, look, this is kind of the role of society. This is kind of your role within society. If this is not what's going to make you happy, you don't have to follow this, but I'm going to try to show you this way because I'm not only worried about you, but I'm worried about society. It's a big, huge topic, and it's certainly one that is very difficult to have and not be viewed as like transphobic or homophobic or anything. And this is coming from a guy that I have plenty of friends and that are both transgender as well as homosexual, bisexual. Like my sister, she's a lesbian. It is what it is. Like I don't have any issues with it, but it is right. It's certainly a topic that's difficult to talk about. So we got a call coming in from Washington. Hello, welcome in, and who's this?
What's up? It's Ben.
Hey Ben, how's it going, man?
Pretty good.
Oh,
I can't watch your show while I call in, so
my
can't
bad.
see the chat.
I'll let you know if anyone starts talking trash about you.
Good. Yeah, I was thinking about this, and of course, it seems like we need a wall.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all the news reports and getting basically bombarded. We don't have enough personnel or money to line up, people shoulder to shoulder for thousands of miles. But it just seems like a wall would be an easy fix for a huge problem. But we also need to look at our interior because places like Southern California, they just basically, if you can get through the border, then you can get to a sanctuary and you can vote for yourself.
Yeah.
And like down there in some of those cities are basically being swept over with basically foreign national leadership. They get in and vote for themselves, and then they have openly brown power meetings. And you're not, unless you're a protected minority, you can't have meetings like that with any other race in any other part of the country.
Yeah.
But they're doing it.
And it's interesting because even there in South California, I think it was LA specifically, they're saying, look, if you're an illegal immigrant, you should be able to vote in the local elections because it pertains to you, and they're moving their way up, and I think that certainly is going to move up to where they're saying, look, you want to vote in the national, we'll protect you. It certainly is a huge issue there.
Right, and then you have all kinds of other legal problems caused by illegal citizens driving around. They get up here, they can buy a vehicle with cash, and then you and I are supposed to include an uninsured motorist on our insurance.
Yep.
And just a few weeks ago, where I work, it's a 2-lane highway with a bridge. There was an accident on the bridge, so the entire work day that was trying to get off of an island was basically trapped where they were. All the side roads were full of cars. The main highway is only 2 lanes. It was full all the way up, all the way to the back of the island. And it was caused by an illegal driver with no insurance. And that's not big news around here. It wasn't on the news, but
yeah,
it kind of pisses you off that that's included in my bill for an uninsured motorist.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, down here in South Carolina, we have very similar incidents. I remember I was working down at BMW at the manufacturing plant, and we had a guy that came in. And he was like, "Look, I got T-boned by a guy, and then I got thrown into another car. Both of the other cars were driven by illegal immigrants who didn't have insurance. So his insurance had to pay for both of them. His deductible, his premium actually went up because of that. And it's just like that. How is this like?" We're having to take on an individual level, not just on a societal level, but on an individual level, we're having to take a higher burden for people that have really no regard for the society around them.
Right. I guess one more example that I've faced recently was I had a parent-teacher conference scheduled, and I was coaching basketball at the time, so I scheduled the parent-teacher conference for right before I had to be at the practice. The whole team was, going to run around, and basically another parent was going to run them around until I got there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to sit in the hallway for my scheduled time, and it was 50 minutes late. So my 20-minute meeting got pushed to a 15-minute meeting, and it was 50 minutes later than it was scheduled for because of the family before me was bilingual. Well, they had to have a translator. So it was the teacher, the principal, a translator, the parents, and the kid. And it took much longer, and I got pushed back. Everything was later, and we got shortened on our meeting.
Yeah.
So the teacher had to rush through it with ours because she wanted to go home.
So I can understand like how that would be a pain. I know that the school that my daughter goes to, I feel like we're in the minority by speaking English a lot of times. I've been in there probably 6 or 7 times now, and every time 3 or 4 families will come in and they all speak Spanish or another language even, and it becomes certainly for here, because it's so prevalent, it's not as big of an issue, but certainly obviously where you are, not having somebody readily available to be able to translate makes it much more difficult. And the idea of having a national language is certainly, there's many merits to that argument. I think that even Canada is kind of struggling with that right now with between the French and the English. It's great points that are being brought up, and a lot of great discussion points, and I always love your insight.
I guess the last thing is the more we bring back prehistoric diseases that we've already conquered and eliminated, it just seems like they'll just inoculate my children for more, various diseases.
Yep.
It doesn't matter that the diseases are already cured and they're gone. They've been gone for decades. As soon as it comes back over the border, they have to add that shot to my kid because there's a new threat. So that's getting old also.
Yeah. And
we need to focus on our interior, and the wall might help some of the things, but I think our interior is number one. We need to figure that out.
Certainly we need to work on and I heard a great idea, and I'm wondering what your thoughts will be on this, is basically shutting down immigration and allowing people to assimilate and then opening it back up. So we basically bring everyone back together, and everyone has kind of the same value system, not necessarily the same political value system. Everyone can kind of adapt to English and be able to move in that way. Just the idea of shutting down immigration for a little while to kind of enforce that and to allow that to happen.
You're kind of cutting out. I can't hear you too well. I kind of get what you're saying.
Oh, my bad.
The problem with shutting down immigration in its track that there's so many pending cases and so many people who go back and forth who work across the border daily.
That is true.
Those are two difficulties. I actually followed a case of a friend of mine who was illegal. He was undocumented, and he came here and got married and had a family and had a good career and did everything the right way.
Yeah.
And I watched him struggle. I watched him save up, work overtime, and he had all this money go back outside the border to come back through legally with an attorney. That was suggested, and it was 50-50 whether he'd ever see his family again. He said, my attorney told me I have to exit and come back in, and they might not let me in. He was scared to death of Trump.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I told him, you know what? I voted for Trump, and now I see it from your point of view, but trust me, Hillary wouldn't have helped you anymore.
Yeah.
And I said, I wish you the best. I hope it works. And I actually called other attorneys and tried to get him help to get back in because I knew he was a hard worker. But you have thousands of cases like that are pending, and I've seen it firsthand. So that's a tough call for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you calling in tonight, Ben, and I look forward to you calling back again. I've always loved your insight and your views on everything. So thank you so much.
Right on. Thanks for the show. I'll catch you later.
All right, man. Yeah, and certainly speaking to like the idea of what Ben was talking about with some illegal immigrants being here and actually having good values, having a good character, and just saying, look, I'm coming here to be a good person, to come and work, to provide for my family. That's always been like one of my big stances that I say, look, there's allowing a people to come here on good terms, to be good people, certainly with the merit-based immigration system, would be not only advantageous for them, but it would also be for America in itself, right? Bringing in people that want to work hard and provide is certainly the best way. And I know I've got a couple people I even call family that are also in that same situation. And you know, when Trump came in, they were also fearful of it. Said, I really hope for the best in everything, you know, just like what Ben was talking about. And certainly there's a lot of fear there. And I think that the expectation for somebody here that is illegal, right? Oftentimes we want to set a higher standard for them. They can't break any laws, despite the fact that even American citizens break on average 3 laws a day. We want them to not break any laws before we say, got to get out of here. And so I think that, you know, the immigration policy is certainly a difficult and long, hopefully emotionless discussion. But we got another caller calling in. Hello, welcome in. Who's this?
This is Jeffrey. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Jeffrey. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. So I'm probably more of your left-leaning veteran. I guess you would say on a political standpoint.
Okay.
I'm not too fond of the wall. I feel like just in history, like walls have been built and they've also gotten torn down.
That is true.
From like the Berlin Wall, the Great Wall of China, whatever it may be. Okay. If we want to say border security, I'm all for it, right? I would much rather have more manpower and more technology so that if something were to go down, I can say, hey, I've got all these guys that are on the border that I can go get this person.
Okay.
Rather than having a wall that one day later when my grandkids come around, they're like, oh, we don't need a wall. We can tear it down.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
So
I'm for it.
Yep. So I was talking with a couple people, and one of the things, right? So a lot of the people that are in my inner circle, they're not big on the wall either. And so one of the things that we were talking about, because there are a couple people that are for the wall, is actually having a partial wall, a semi-wall, if you will. That way you can actually funnel people. That way the manning wouldn't be as necessary. The technology wouldn't be as necessary, so you can reduce that. But you wouldn't have like a full wall from around across the entire border. I think that would be certainly a middle ground that would enable a more beneficial way of doing it. But you know, I'm not a big fan of the wall at all either. So I'm on your side.
I just think that when you say, oh, we're going to spend this money on a wall. Whether it be poor, like partial or not, I still need the manpower. You're not fixing the issue of these people still can come over.
Yeah. And on top of that, the maintenance.
And all I'm saying is, let's slow down on this wall. Let's not put a Band-Aid over this issue. This is an issue, okay?
Yeah.
This is an issue. I'm not saying that it's not an issue. What I'm saying is, let's actually sit down and figure out how we're going to do it. Whether you say, you know what, we're not allowing entry on the northern border and the southern border, and for everybody that, goes through, let's say, the prison system, right?
Yeah.
If you're an illegal immigrant and you go through the prison or you get arrested, you need to say, okay, what are you getting arrested for? If it's something violent, okay, you need to go back home.
Yes.
But if it's something minor, that, you had a couple speeding tickets that you didn't pay, well, what have you been doing in society while you've been undocumented? Let's actually look and sit down.
Yeah,
because,
no, I'm right there with you.
We all make an honest mistake.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly what I was talking about earlier.
If we put that person in ICE custody and then ICE has to fly them home, how much does one ticket cost to go from wherever you are to Mexico or from wherever you are to South America? Like, everybody is like, oh my God, the southern border is so bad. But some of the problems that we're having are American made.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you.
For instance, MS-13, the South American gang or the Central American gang that Trump has been blasting is not a Central American gang. It was actually an American gang.
Well,
and
so
what we did originally is we sent them home.
So there was some. So there was some derivations of it from Central America, and I think specifically from like Guatemala. I think was the country of origin. El Salvador. Thank you. And so there was some derivations there starting there, and then some of them did come here to America to catch up with people who were fleeing from the vengeance of them, and then they started becoming a growing entity here as well, and then now we kind of have it. I think the last time I was looking deep into this, it's pretty comparable for the American side versus the El Salvadorian side. So I don't know if I would say that they're necessarily one or the other side.
I just feel like at some point in time, I feel like it's when people operate on fear, it puts everybody in a tizzy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, fear is what allows the government to grow, and they'll always grow off of that.
And what I'm saying is, you may be a conservative, and I may be more liberal than.
Oh, I'm not conservative, but okay.
No, you have. I should say you have conservative listeners. Okay.
Yes.
At the end of the day, it shouldn't be, hey, I can't talk to you because you're liberal, and vice versa. What I'm saying is, we need to come together and we need to say, how do we fix this so that, America can be great?
Oh, yeah,
because
absolutely.
I took my time and I said, I did 5 years in the military. It didn't turn out all the way like I wanted it to, but at the end of the day, I did my time, and now it's like, okay, how can I make sure that my time in the military doesn't go to waste because politicians can't make a decision? Yeah,
no, I'm right there with you.
And I think that's like the big issue is, let's not say that the wall needs to be built. Let's sit down and let's say what's most important in this situation. Because you're saying border security, I'm saying border security.
Yep.
Now let's say, what is the real issue in border security? Because the law doesn't arrest people. And then what we can also do is we can, for all, like, the caravan that came up this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
That just made it up this way.
Yeah.
Why don't we have the scanners? Why don't we update the law enforcement fingerprint scanners and retinal scanners that they have?
Yeah.
And you run them through the system.
Yeah, yeah.
If they're not able to. You see what I'm saying? Like, okay, now I got them in the system. Okay, they came as an asylum seeker. Well, guess what? If you're an asylum seeker and you just so happen to get arrested for a violent crime, guess what? You're going back to your country of origin. There's no questions going to be asked.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that, you know, these young kids are dying in our custody, and maybe we should try and figure out a way to have them, like, put detained with their parents.
Yeah. No, so that...
Go ahead.
No, you can finish off your thought. It's fine.
Okay. So what I'm saying is, why don't we start detaining minors with their parents so that at night or throughout the day, whenever it may be, there's a parent with the child. Just like you're responsible for your child, or your child to be, and I'm responsible for mine.
Yep. So
you came over illegally, we'll detain you together. I know it's not legally how it's done right now, but we need to really address this situation because this doesn't need to happen.
Yeah.
If we can go halfway across the world and do humanitarian aid missions in Afghanistan because there's an avalanche, and we can give these people healthcare checkups and all this stuff on their way to, getting aid and then getting sent back, we should be able to do the same thing here at home.
So I think that, I'll give you a little bit of pushback, I guess, if you will, on that, and then I gotta let you go. I got some other people trying to call in, but so when it comes to like the actual separation, this is actually something that Obama started, and I actually kind of like it. So the separation thing, he did it with a bad intention, but when it comes to actually having the children and the parents here, and you have them separate, the children are actually better taken care of than any federal school I've ever seen, better than government or program. Like these are children that are taken care of extremely well, and I think that I like that part of it, as well as when we're processing the parents. So this is when they're supposed to be there, and I don't agree entirely with the way that the system is structured, but when the parents are waiting to go and see a judge, certainly I don't think that when they're in a holding cell, it would be to the best interest of the children to have the children sitting there in these cells either. I don't think that we should be also rewarding the parents with giving them the same service, if that makes sense.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, normally you have like a 9 to 5 work day, okay?
Mm-hmm.
9 to 5, we're taking care of the kids while their parents are doing whatever they need to do in the court system to hurry up and push them out. After 5 o'clock, it's, okay, you guys are getting locked down in this area so that you guys can take care of each other.
Yeah.
So I'm not having that infant being taken care of by some random American citizen.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate the call, Jeffrey, and I gotta let the phone lines open up again. So thank you again for calling in tonight. It was truly a pleasure. I hope you'll call in the future. One of the premises here, one of the purposes I'm here is to get conservatives and to get liberals and progressives and even other libertarians like myself to come on here and be able to open up the lines of discourse. So I appreciate you for calling in.
All right, no problem.
All right, have a good night, man. All right, thank you for that, Jeffrey. And he's got a lot of good points in there, and I think that certainly once we get down to and we ignore the partisanship, right? Something I've been talking a lot about is to ignore if there's an R or a D next to the name. Look at the content of their discussions. That's how we're going to get better discussions. And we got one more caller calling in. Welcome in, Mr. Beans.
Hey man, what's up, Jake?
How are you doing tonight?
Finer than frogs there and twice as fluffy.
Oh man, what's on your mind, man?
Man, I've been listening to a couple of the callers and looking at the comments and stuff, and most recent one, Jeffrey, I certainly hope he's listening, and with all due respect, I kind of patently disagree with some of his thoughts and theories on things. I think that I do wholly agree that we have to take care of things within the interior. I agree with that 100%. I know you do as well. However, can't keep the fish in the net if you don't fix the net to keep them getting out. And what we're actually trying to do here is the exact opposite.
Okay.
We're trying to create a net to stop the fish from coming in so that we can manage and deal with what's already in the net. And then, at that point, we can continue forward. We have to stop the ebb and tide before we can do anything with the flood.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
All right. Yeah. No, I'm following the logic. So yeah, no.
I mean, it doesn't. I mean, there's. I know there's multiple elements to it. And I understand that, and I fully agree with that and appreciate that.
Yeah.
I know that we need electronic surveillance. We need more manpower. We need many, many things. However, I do think that some type of physical barrier, fencing, concrete wall, whatever you want to call it, works.
Yeah.
And it's been proven. It's been proven in multiple countries throughout the world, and I think that is a good start to stop the ebb and flow of the influx.
No, and that was something that, it was early on in the conversation. I don't want to sit there and provide too much pushback, of course, but countries like Israel, where it's a very small population, they have the population to be able to cover the walls and really enforce them. It's been really beneficial for them, or really been effective for them. And so certainly there are a lot of countries out there that have been effective.
No, I agree 100%. I'm not saying that's the end all and be all solution. It's certainly not.
Yeah.
Because there's much more to do.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the previous callers, it might have been the same caller, I don't recall, but was talking about very, very unfortunate deaths of those two children that happened to be in.
Yeah, that was
CBP.
That was Miss Free Spirit, Miss Free Spirit News. That was the very first caller.
Okay, and that's very unfortunate, and but I can't blame our border security, our border patrol for that.
Yeah,
and and everybody seems to be overlooking a lot of the things that go on in this country, and I'm not even going to mention the most recent heinous thing, but there's a lot of people are overlooking many multiple other things, and one of your callers mentioned about, well, you got pulled over a couple times for speeding. Okay, well, that's okay, no big deal, right? Well, I'll agree with that, but if you don't belong here to begin with, if you shouldn't have a driver's license and or don't have a driver's license, what if in one of those speeding he killed somebody?
Yeah.
Now he has created a heinous crime.
Yep. No, and certainly once the violence has been committed, or once the actual act of hurting other people, I think that certainly needs to come into discussion. But I think at the gist of that, which was, I think the intent of that was nonviolent crimes shouldn't be a justification in order to remove somebody and to utilize the system in such a powerful way to get people out. But I caught
that part of it.
Yeah.
I caught that part of it. I caught the gist of the fact that a couple speeding tickets are not violent crimes. However, coming into the country illegally to begin with is a crime.
Yep.
Number one. And number two, when you create other crimes that are non-violent crimes that could eventually lead up to a violent crime that could cause death or destruction to an individual or, something like that, well,
yeah.
That's just kind of my thought on that theory.
No, I understand. Well, I appreciate you calling in, Beans, and I look forward to our future discussions. Everything. I gotta wrap this up real quick so I can hit the couple more topics I got left, and then we'll be wrapping up the show. So thank you for calling in.
Go with it, brother. I'm just sitting here enjoying the show.
I appreciate it. Well, you have a wonderful night, man. Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off like that, Beans. I apologize for that, but nonetheless, so transitioning away from the wall, we've been hitting the wall pretty hard. I mean, Pink Floyd didn't get the wall this much. So transitioning on, I gotta bring up. So January 19th, the Women's March had something planned this upcoming January 19th, and they had to cancel it. The decision was made after many conversations between local social change organizers and supporters of the march. Up to this point, the participants have been overwhelmingly white, lacking representation from several perspectives in our community. Instead of pushing forward with the crucial voices absent, the organizing team will take time for more outreach. Our goal is that the planning will continue and will be successful in creating an event that will build power and community engagement through connection between women that seek to improve the lives of all in our community. So, at the crux of this, at the very core of what this is, that the Women's March cannot be represented by white women. They have to have women of all flavors. If it's not a Neapolitan Women's March, they don't want it. So white people are once again being vilified. It's basically racism on a heavy front. So apparently white women are not able to fight for all women. They're only able to fight for the white women, and so their voices should not be heard, right? Their concerns are not worth it, and they have to shut this thing down. If you This is like peak leftism, right? This is peak progressivism, where my group is not diverse enough. I have to shut my own group down. It is beautiful. The absolute level of stupidity it takes to be a lefty, this far lefty. If you really think that I'm not diverse enough, pardon me, if I'm not diverse enough, then I cannot come out and talk to you guys. So I've got great ideas, but I'm only white. I'm like 99% white, and I've got a little less than 1% of Native American in me. So yes, I do trump the Elizabeth Warren, but nonetheless, I don't have enough ethnicity in me. I'm not enough of a person of color to come out and talk to you guys. So all of my research, all of my understanding of the issues, all of my concerns of the patriarchy are null and void. They are null and void because I am not high enough on the victimhood mentality hierarchy. So because I'm not high enough, I'm sorry guys, we're gonna have to cancel this. This is peak progressivism at its finest. I love this. Reading this, I can't help but just laugh. So California, this is in Eureka, California. Beautiful enough, right? Eureka, California. Eureka, we're idiots. Shutting it down for not enough diversity just really speaks to what it is that they're trying to achieve. Oh man! So while we're going off with stupidity, so from the Supreme Court, Ginny Thomas, the wife of the Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, she's gotten some controversy around her, and this is going to be the last story for the night. She's gotten some controversy because she has made remarks that the media and the Democrats find too partisan. So she has in recent months shared posts on Facebook alleging Democrats committed voter fraud. There's plenty of that. Claiming survivors of mass shooting in Parkland, Florida high school are a threat to the country. I wouldn't say that they're a threat to the country, but they're certainly a threat to the Second Amendment. because they've been openly advocating against this, and we've seen this, and we've been talking about this for a while, and that Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio was the subject of false accusations because he threatens the elite. And certainly when we talk about Jim Jordan and that entire situation, maybe she took it a little bit far by saying it's because he's threatening the elite. But as for the false accusations, right, it's until they're proven to be true, right? The presumption of innocence would say that they're false until proven true, until they've been vindicated, until they've been proven. And so she's getting a lot of backlash from CNN and Washington Post specifically, but also from other Democrats and everyone else. And it comes to this idea. It comes down to this core idea that if you are a relative of a representative, whether it is a member of Congress, the President of the United States, or a judicial judge, or a judge within the Supreme Court or any parts of the judiciary, that you are no longer able to voice your opinion and talk about what is actually going on. And it's just... I never understood this mentality, and maybe you guys can help me out with this, but I've never understood the idea that because you're in office, you're no longer able to speak your own mind. And certainly, if you're not even the one in office, if you're not the one on the bench, that somehow you have to have a muzzle on you. Now, certainly I can understand saying, look, it doesn't look good for Clarence Thomas if you're going to come out here and you're going to make these partisan-looking comments and assertions. It doesn't look good on Clarence Thomas. But, oh, pardon me. But to make it look as if it's like something just absolutely reprehensible and she needs to have a serious backlash for this. It's just, come on now. Seriously? Like, can we grow up and accept that people are going to have ideas, people are going to have their own narratives, people are going to voice these narratives, their grievances and everything else, and you shouldn't be saying, look, where they're at determines if they're allowed to say these things or not, or think it speaks ill of them. Clarence Thomas is somebody that is, for the most part, pretty impartial. He's pretty good when it comes to the Constitution on a lot of topics. He's been a pretty decent Supreme Court justice. He's been on the right side of a lot of decisions. He's a good guy. I don't think that her views are really going to affect him, especially speaking to the history that he's had. I don't think that she's making a large impact. And so it comes down to this idea where people are just... We're trying to control people. You can't voice that opinion because I disagree with it. Oh, but Michelle Obama, during the times of Obama, right, she can say whatever she wanted to say about the country, and it was fine because she's the first lady, an unelected person that happens to be the wife of somebody who was elected. She can say whatever she wants to say. She can be as partisan as she wants to be. And it really does come down to this level of cognitive dissonance, right? I don't care if you're a Supreme Court justice or if you're a member of Congress or the President of the United States. You have your role, you have your objectives, you have your standard of conduct. The people that are within your life, around your life, whether it's your wife, your husband, your children, your grandparents, your aunties, your uncles, your nieces, your nephews, whoever it is, even if it's your stupid mailman, I don't care. They can also say whatever they want to say. Stop trying to go after people for what they say. You can go after for the content of what they say, and you can say this person's right or wrong. But to come down and say, look, you're the wife of a Supreme Court justice, you can't talk about it. Like, stop it. Just stop it. You're making a joke of yourself. CNN, if you have to go after somebody because of where they sit in the hierarchy, because they're the wife of somebody, and you want to also say that you're not fake news, like, seriously, you got to sit down, look in the mirror, and just realize this is why your ratings are crashing. This is why you are failing as a news media organization. Because you do nothing but just sit there and be a partisan shill and be a joke. That's all that CNN has become. That's what a lot of the mainstream media has become. I'm glad that people are finally waking up to this idea and walking away from them. So thank you guys all for walking away from the media and continuing on living a much more objective life without having your narrative be provided to you and hoping that the facts will be within it. But with that, guys, I hope you guys all had a great night. I hope you guys enjoyed your weekend. It's going to be the last time I talk to you guys for the year, but I will be talking to you guys on the 1st. So I'll see you guys on Tuesday the 1st, January 1st. First day of the year, start off strong with a beard. So I hope you guys all had a great year. Hopefully you guys took a little bit of time out this weekend, reflected on what happened this year, figured out what you could have done better for the year, figured out what didn't go quite so well, and figured out how you could have made that better. And other than that, I want to thank you all for coming in here, whether this is your first time or you've been here all year. However long you've been here, thank you so much for providing support. Whether you just pop in and you throw a little hate and hop out, or if you come in and you listen and you try to learn something, I appreciate you nonetheless. So thank you guys all. Have a great night. I look forward to the new year. There's going to be a lot of big changes coming. So stick around. Thank you all. I love you all. Take care. Have a good, happy new year, and I'll see you guys on the 1st. Have a great night. I am Mr. America, the Bearded Truth, Jason Lyon.